In Japan, there is an unspoken rule that many people quietly pass on to one another, especially those who live alone. If someone knocks on your door at midnight, do not open it. This rule is not born from superstition alone, but from a story that has unsettled people for decades. A story known simply, yet ominously, as the Midnight Knocker. No one knows exactly when the story began. It has no clear origin, no ancient scrolls, no official records. It does not belong to classical folklore or traditional mythology. Instead, it spreads through whispered conversations, online forums, anonymous posts, and late-night discussions. That uncertainty is precisely what makes it terrifying, because it feels like something that could happen to anyone, anywhere. According to this urban legend, sometime between midnight and 2 o'clock in the morning, when the world has fallen into complete silence, a knock will come at your door. Not loud, not violent, just slow, steady, and deliberate. The knock is clear enough that you cannot ignore it, yet gentle enough to make you wonder if you imagined it. If you approach the door, you may hear a voice from the other side, calm, polite, almost apologetic. The voice says ordinary things. Is anyone home? Sorry to bother you. Or I need some help. There is no threat in the words, no urgency, no obvious danger, and that is exactly what makes it unsettling. What is strange is that no matter how many times you ask who they are, the person never gives a clear answer. If pressed for their identity, they fall silent for a few seconds and then knock again. Some people claim they looked through the peephole and saw nothing, only darkness, or an empty hallway where someone should have been standing. Those who tell the story say that if you open the door, nothing horrific happens immediately. There is no monster lunging forward, no sudden violence. Instead, the person simply steps inside, calmly, as if they belong there. From that moment on, subtle changes begin to unfold. The person who opened the door starts to feel watched, even when alone. They hear faint footsteps at night, soft whispers that cannot be traced, a constant sensation that someone is standing just behind them. Yet every time they turn around, there is nothing there. Sleep becomes difficult, nightmares grow frequent. Slowly, paranoia sets in. In darker versions of the story, those who opened the door begin to lose their sense of time. Day and night blur together. They struggle to remember when they opened the door, or even whether the knocking was real. Yet one thing is consistent: their life never returns to normal. But refusing to open the door does not necessarily end the story. The midnight knocker does not leave right away. Sometimes it remains outside in complete silence for hours. On other nights, the knocking returns, always at the same time, always with the same rhythm. Each time, the tension grows stronger, as if something is patiently waiting for you to make a mistake. This legend resonates deeply within Japanese society because it touches a very real fear: loneliness. Japan has one of the highest numbers of people living alone in the world. Small apartments, quiet nights, long stretches of silence. These conditions create the perfect environment for anxiety to grow, and for stories like this to take root. Some cultural researchers suggest that the Midnight Knocker is not truly a ghost story, but a metaphor. The door is more than a physical barrier. It represents a psychological boundary. Opening the door at your weakest moment means allowing something unknown to enter your life, something you do not fully understand or control. Others interpret the story as a reflection of modern social fears: fear of intrusion, fear of strangers, and fear that excessive politeness can place us in danger. The Midnight Knocker is always courteous, never aggressive, never forceful, and precisely because of that, it becomes difficult to refuse. One detail appears in nearly every version of the legend: the midnight knocker never breaks down the door. There is no violence, no forced entry. It only waits. This detail makes the story more unsettling than tales of monsters or demons, because it emphasizes that the danger comes not from power, but from choice. In Japanese culture, silence holds deep meaning. Silence can signify respect, but it can also signal threat. The midnight knocker uses silence as its weapon. No screams, no sudden movements, just knocking, waiting, and the unbearable tension of uncertainty. To this day, no one can confirm whether this story is true or merely an urban legend, yet it continues to circulate, especially among those who have recently begun living alone. Perhaps the story does not exist to frighten, but to warn. Some doors should remain closed, not because what waits outside is always evil, but because sometimes we are too vulnerable to face the unknown. And if one night, when the clock strikes midnight and the world has fallen completely silent, you hear a slow, deliberate knock at your door, remember this story, because in this legend, the most terrifying moment is not the figure standing outside, but the moment your hand rests on the doorknob and you hesitate.